Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Traps Tuesday Toots. Today we're going over these bad boys right here. That's the observer blocks. So what is an observer block? An observer block is a block that will go ahead and detect whether or not the block that it's looking at, with its little face right here, whether or not that block has changed state. Now what does that mean? Let's go to it. All right, so I have gone ahead and set up this little set of observers that all have redstone leading to that note block. You'll hear that little sound anytime this observer line gets activated by any of these observers along this line. So, what do I mean by an updated block? First off, basically, if you place or break a block that is in front of it, it will notice that. But it will also notice if the state changes beyond just whether or not it's there. So, if I press this, it notices that it depressed. But then it also, after that 1.5 seconds, it unpressed and it noticed that as well. So you get 2 clicks out of these buttons. You also get a click when you step on a pressure plate and when you step off a pressure plate. Now, in theory, that would have been a double pulse, except that it's simultaneous. But it does notice when a trapdoor opens. I don't mean a trapdoor, although I do mean a trapdoor. I mean a gate, or a trapdoor, or a regular door. It will also notice the random ticks of sugarcane. Whenever they try to grow, it will notice that. Not even just when they grow, when they try to grow. Strangely, it doesn't exactly do that with bamboo, though. What it will notice with bamboo, however, is it will notice when you place a bamboo, and it will also notice when a bamboo grows from this type of bamboo to this type of bamboo. However, it will not then notice when you add more up above or even break this one or place this one. So it will only notice when it changes from the sapling to the too tall bamboo. It will also notice each time a composter gains a level or when it finally composts. So if I do this, you saw it actually gained a level, and it gained a level. That time it didn't gain a level, we didn't hear a ding, but that time it did. So if it doesn't gain a level, it doesn't notice it, but when it does gain a level, it does notice it. And then as I fill it up, you heard there was 2 dings because it filled it up and then it transitioned into the bone meal. It will also notice when you clear it out. So it will ding for each of those. Additionally, all of these different crops here, it will notice when you plant it, and it will notice each time it grows up a stage. It also will notice when this finally actually makes a melon. Observers can also detect when a state of a dirt block changes. So if it becomes a grass block, if it becomes mycelium, becomes farmland, then it will detect that. Also when it reverts, and also when it becomes hydrated farmland. It will also detect when logs change. So if you were to strip a log, it will notice that. It will also notice when fences or glass panes or walls or anything like that, whenever it changes shape because a block next to it changes. So if I do that, we hear it go off. It will also detect when string is interacted with. So if an entity crosses into the string, it will go off, and when you leave, it will go off. It also detects when a shulker box opens and when a shulker box is opening, as well as when it's closed and when it's closing. So you'll hear 2 beeps each time I interact with the shulker. It can also detect when cauldrons fill up or are emptied. So if I place water bottles in here, each level of water will be detected, and when I empty it, it will be detected. This also includes when lava is dripping into it, and when water is dripping into it, and when powdered snow is dripping into it. It will detect each level that it raises in that process. It can also detect when you enter and when you leave a bed. They will also detect when the shape of a dripstone changes. So if it is this little tiny point and it changes to the next level, it will detect that. And as it changes to the third level, it will detect that. Now this shape from here on, no matter how tall that gets, will actually not change. So it won't detect another shift. So if we go up, you can hear that it doesn't detect it, but it will detect it as it gets smaller each step of the way. It will also detect when a flower is placed into or taken out of a flower pot. It cannot detect when you place items into a furnace, whether it's fuel or whether it is furnace, and it also won't detect when they have smelted. But what it will detect is whether the furnace is active or not. So if I put fuel and items to be smelted in, it will detect that. And it will also detect when it is finished. It will detect when a crystal grows. So if that were to grow, the small crystal, or if the crystal were to grow from small to the next size or any of the sizes after that, it will detect each and every single one of those changes. And it will also detect when a coral block turns gray. So when it dies, it will detect that. It will also detect when candles are lit or extinguished, which for anyone who doesn't know, if you right-click on them with an empty hand, you can extinguish candles. But it will detect when they're lit and when they are extinguished. Strangely, brewing stands, it does not detect when they brew or anything like that, but it does detect when water bottles are placed inside or when they're taken out. But as you can see, this is currently going to turn these water bottles into an awkward potion. When it finishes, we'll hear the sound of the brewing stand, but we will not hear the note block beep. It also will notice when a record is inserted or taken out of a record player. So it beeped then, and it will beep again. Strangely, observers do not detect changes to container blocks. So if I place items inside of a pot, it doesn't notice that. If I place items into a hopper, it doesn't notice that. It doesn't notice it if I put them in droppers or dispensers. It doesn't notice the chest open, have items placed in it, or close. So none of those actually get detected by an observer block. Also, entities don't get noticed by observer blocks. So you can walk in front of an observer block, doesn't do anything. This also means armor stands aren't detected by an observer block. Placing items on an armor stand isn't detected by an observer block. And item frames aren't detected by an observer block. Anvils, it will notice when they change durability. It just broke a little bit more, and we heard it beep. Observer blocks also will detect when skulk sensors are going off and when they change states. So if I make noise, it goes off, and then it has two different levels of deactivating, and it notices all of those. It does not notice when meat cooks on a campfire. So you place the meat on, didn't detect it, and it won't detect it when it finishes cooking. But it will detect whether or not a campfire is lit. So if I put it out and light it, we can see that the observer is noticing that change. So the next thing you guys need to know is that an observer will detect a change in the strength of power of redstone dust. So currently this redstone dust, and it could be facing in any direction. Currently it's facing into the observer, but that really doesn't matter. It could just be going across, and it would do the same thing. But it will detect that there is a signal strength change. Currently this signal is a power strength of 14. You can actually see that on the middle of the screen on the right. So basically what we have here is a little comparator setup. We'll go over comparators when we touch on comparators. But basically what's happening is this is currently on the first page of a 15-page book, which means that it's outputting a signal strength of 0, which is being subtracted by this comparator in subtract mode. So this still has full signal strength. So this is signal strength 14, and it is that. So if I change pages, this now is signal strength 13, and you heard it beep because it detected that the signal strength changed. Each turn of the page will in fact change the signal strength. Now it's a signal strength of 8. If I go all the way to 15, it turns off. And each time it changed, you hear 15 beeps as we go through each of the 15 signal strengths. That is everything you need to know about observer blocks. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Also, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button. That really helps out the channel. And thank you so much for being here. Y'all take care of yourselves, stay happy, stay healthy, and don't get trapped without me. Bye-bye.